Hello and welcome, everyone. You are watching the Backwards K Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Asbrock. What? Not a good start?
I am what you are watching.
I'm like,
The thing. The thing with the thing.
I'm not going to lie, I was caught off guard. And I don't know why.
I know. Clearly, I was. I hit the button late. I was like, firing on all cylinders.
Well, the funny part was because I was waiting for, usually it takes a little bit to get my, my mic to be unmuted. And it was on. And I was like, oh, God. And then you had me on my heels. So regardless, you are listening, watching the Backwards K Baseball Podcast. Again, I am Chris Asbrock, and I'm your host tonight. And as always, I'm joined by, not esteemed because he screwed me up on this one, my co-host, Scott Kaiser. Scott, my man, how you doing, buddy?
We made it, man. The baseball season is in the books. It's all done. We have wrapped on another year, but I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
You know what? I can't complain. Can't complain at all. Baseball, I mean, it was a fun-filled year. I mean, as much as we bitched and moaned about it, baseball is still baseball. And it culminated with a good World Series. I said I wasn't going to watch it. I'll be the first to admit I watched way more than I said I would.
Of course you did. Of course you did. You had to prove those people right that said that there would be a ton of people who said that they didn't watch it, but actually did. And thank you for being part of that constituent. I, on the other hand, I stuck to my morals, my guns, my fibers, and I didn't watch a single second of it. But that doesn't stop the world of text updates. So, even though I didn't watch it, it felt like
You watched it, so shut it.
No,
you did.
I felt like I was tuned in somehow. So, I knew what was going on. But no, I didn't watch a single second of it. I am happy with the outcome, but ultimately upset with the finish. I would rather not see it come down to the Dodgers and the Yankees, but it did. The less annoying team won, the necessary evil in this case. And I'm wondering if the Dodgers may end up being the new age version, for me at least, and it would be what I tell myself, of the Red Sox. For most of the late 90s and early 2000s there, when the Red Sox and Yankees were going back and forth. I never have an issue with anything that the Red Sox do, even though it was very similar to what the Yankees were doing, just on a smaller, less successful scale. And I used the Red Sox as just my surrogate for it. It's like, well, the Braves aren't going to be able to do it, and so the Red Sox were the necessarily evil. I didn't want to like the Red Sox, but there I was having to root for the Red Sox more often than not because it meant the Yankees were winning, or meant the Yankees weren't winning. And so now I find myself wondering if now the Dodgers are going to slide into the National League version of that. And if it's not Atlanta, well, it won't be the Mets and it won't be Philadelphia. So it's got to be somebody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of the teams that are spending an ass load of money and, seemingly have all the right pieces to do it. So I'm going to have to just eat a big bowl of turds every season that Atlanta doesn't finish in the top spot in the National League, and just, I guess, hope that it's the Dodgers. So here's to what could be the many of championships that are just through gritted teeth in my case.
Well, the thing is with the Dodgers, there's so many guys, and we've talked about it before, that there's so many guys on that team that you can't help but like, and that's the problem. It's they've got a team full of guys that, I really enjoy watching. I like Freddie. I like, obviously Mookie, and it's just Teoscar has always been a favorite of mine.
It does make it hard because the individuals are not so bad at the collective. And I guess it's very similar to those Red Sox teams. Like, I really enjoyed Pedro and Big Papi and just some of the guys that they ran through there. Over
freaking crash-ass neighbors of mine just decided to rev up their piece of shit. God.
I thought that was the dog.
No, it was
like, oh God.
See, I left the window open because I didn't think we were going to run into this problem. But of course, trash, has to.
Nothing like the middle of November in Ohio to get random sounds.
And I can hear him pouring it down the street. You got to be kidding me. What an asshole.
But anyway, Mike pointing out that game one was a tease, thought it was going to be a classic, and then it's pretty much done the series. I was not fooled. I hadn't heard much, but I said from last series on that the Yankees were not tested at all in these playoffs. Probably one of the biggest cakewalks to the World Series, definitely in recent memory, but I mean, maybe ever, because, obviously you've had to play more teams to get there in recent years as they've added more teams to the field. But never has a team gotten so lucky than to just, play two teams from the same division, one that we ragged on all year and that featured the worst team in baseball history, maybe, if not the worst, close to the worst. So, the Yankees getting there wasn't that big of a feat overall, and no real test. And then, the Dodgers on the other side did have to deal with the Mets and, struggled through their pitching issues all season. And, down the stretch, there were a lot of questions. I mean, it was why I didn't think that they would end up where they did, because they didn't have enough pitching and they were going to have to cobble it together, but they did, and somehow made it look very easy against the Yankees. So I actually think I overestimated New York just a tad bit.
I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I think, the Yankees have talent. I mean, they've got a lot of talent, which is what kept them in this series. But I mean, overall, like you said, there was no team that was more battle tested, in the last, couple rounds of this playoffs than the Dodgers. I mean, it was, each series they were in a battle, and San Diego took them to the brink, it seemed like, and so did the Mets. And like you said, while the Yankees could just scoot on, it was a no-brainer to me that after the Freddie Freeman grand slam, which I got an alert on my phone, and I immediately, because again I said I wasn't going to watch the World Series, but then I saw that and I was like, well, shit, now I got to switch over, and I did, and I'm so glad I did, because just it just showed playoff baseball is the best. And I've always said playoff hockey is awesome, me being a hockey guy as well. But, man, it's tough to beat playoff baseball, especially when you get a walk-off grand slam in game one. And it just – that place was, I mean, pandemonium. So, you build off of that, and the Dodgers are, again, the Dodgers. And they're – when Shohei, the best player on the planet, is, I don't want to say he didn't show up, but – he was held down, and he's battling that shoulder injury as well. But again, overall, the Dodgers, they were, to me, I like it because I people shit on them for the COVID World Series. I had no issue with that at all, because to me,
I had no problem with it either, because it didn't count. I mean, they won it, but this was the first non-Mickey Mouse / fake wannabe World Series title of the Dodgers in my lifetime. So kudos to them for that.
See, but here's the thing, and I'm not like, if the Braves had won that, you'd have been.
No, I wouldn't have accepted it as much, and I would have begrudgingly known, like it would have been like something over. And I think the Dodgers, you can ask them, and they would have told you before this series it didn't matter. But I guarantee you, anybody that was part of that team that still played, like, would tell you off record, yeah, we wanted to win one outright, because even though we won that one, people were always going to look at it as
I would guarantee every single one did. Yeah. No, they did. Every single one of them did, because of that. They wanted to shove it to everyone that kept saying that. And to me, I don't discard that World Series at all. I mean, to me, it had to be. It was played, and it was, they got it done, and that's what I'm.
It's just one of those things that you just mentioned. It goes on the ledger with it. Like, yeah, they won the World Series that year, but also it was a COVID year, and they only played X amount of games. Like, I'm not saying that you just count it as they won the title that year. You just discount it as a similar title to any of the ones that had like a full season played behind it. Like, I mean, because technically the Braves won the World Series in '95 in a shortened season because of the strike still affecting it in those first, handful of games that got canceled before they resolved that. So, if you want to get real technical, they wanted a strike shortened season, so it's not the same as a full 162. But again, like COVID, unique situation, and view it slightly different. That's all. But
See,
hats
I
off.
don't like if the
hats-
Reds won it. Oh, I'd be jacked to shit. I'd be starting the
Look,
parade down there.
and
Like,
again,
that's
I'm
just how-
not saying that necessarily like groups or individual players. Like, hey, if you were on that team and you've since moved on, or you didn't, that was your only shot at getting a title, and you're like, hey, this is just as good as any other world. Hey, hats off to you. I'm just saying, for me. And for a lot of fans and of mine. Yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't count. I'm just always going to be like, oh, yeah, I mean, the Dodgers won that World Series, but, it was a different World Series. And it would have, and honest to God, it would have done that for anybody. And like I said, I am so glad that the Braves decided to win the year after that, because it would have sucked if they would have won that World Series after that long of a drought. That was the one that they finally were. I would have felt some type of way about like, it doesn't really count. They have to win one. That's like not.
I don't know. I think you would have been.
I would have.
Look up for the brand on that one. You would.
Look, I would have still bought all the shit like the sucker that I am.
Exactly.
But deep down, I would have felt this inadequacy of crap. They won this one, but there were all sorts of stipulations, and it wasn't the usual. So good for the Dodgers for being able to expel all that, and now they don't have to worry about idiots like me discounting that one. I can be like, well, yeah, it happened, but then they won another one, and it was legit, and whatever. Who cares? Because I mean, the same thing. It's kind of the same thing as like with the Astros when they won the one after all the controversy. It's like, oh, okay, well, we won this one, so will you shut up about the one that was not legit? Well, no, people are still gonna like throw that out there and say, well, that they won that one because of cheating. I don't, but there are people that say that. I mean, if the Yankees have won it, 100% those motherfuckers cheated and like it's tarnished and they should be stricken from the book. But with the Astros, it's just whatever. And so I understand that after that they wanted to win one where they didn't have that cloud hanging over them, and I get the relief and giving everybody the proverbial middle finger to, well, hey guys, we want it this way now, so can you shut up about it? Like, we're sorry about that other thing, but let bygones be bygones here. We're good.
Yeah, fair enough. I guess we'll go with that.
Yeah,
we'll go with that. I mean, but overall, I mean, it was, yeah. I mean,
you mentioned the walk-off grand slam, and I guess that's the perfect place to go next. Was the MVP of this World Series was a very familiar face to me, and that of Freddie Freeman.
Dude was on a heater.
Yeah, he caught Frederick at the worst possible time if you're New York, because I mean, Freddie's not that much of a home run hitter. He obviously has a tremendous amount of power. I mean, he's got a tremendous amount of power, but he tends not to hit them in bunches. And he's just not somebody that you're looking, if you were going to pick somebody to just go just lightning white hot in the home run department to start that series. Like, his name would come up, but it's just there are so many other guys that had kind of taken that spot. And so little bit shocking when Shohei, who had carried them there, all of a sudden went MIA, and Freddie picked up that slack and then some, was basically unstoppable. And I'm sure New York fans are, I know that there's I thought during the series that there would be plenty of people that would be whining in New York about how they had the opportunity to sign him and didn't, because that was a big point of contention at the time that he was a free agent. Was they were in a situation where they didn't have any money to give to him at first base because they had that logjam there. But that goes back to some of the decisions that Cashman made in putting this team together and some of the flaws that were inherent in this series. But kudos to Freddie for dealing with everything that he had to deal with this season. Those of you who may or may not know that he dealt with some health issues for one of his twin sons this past summer. That went on for a good part of the summer and took him off the field for, I remember, what was it, like 6 weeks?
I was going to say, yeah,
something like that. He was away from baseball for a while.
It was about a month and a half, 2 months. Yeah.
Right. And dealing with all that. And still being able to play at a high level throughout all that. So for him to be able to get past that and move on into the World Series and then just carry the Dodgers all the way through the end of the World Series was very impressive. Happy for him because, again, while not happy about the Dodgers as an organization winning the World Series, did enjoy individual players, and Freddie very high on that list because I have no animosity towards the man after having left. He did what he was supposed to do in bringing a title to Atlanta, and so I wish him nothing but the best as far as his career is gone. So happy to see him be the reason, the main cog in the reason. By extension, it feels like my hatred found its way to New York and it took this form in order to win. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was your guy that that helped shove it right up their hoop. So there's that. Yeah. No, but overall, like again, I thought, like going back to Mike's point, saying the game, game one was such a tease. I thought, overall, I thought all the games outside of game 4, all the games are really good. Now I did catch glimpses of 2 and 3. I saw a little bit of game 4, but it was kind of a blowout. But game 5 was the one. I watched it with my neighbors who are, they're diehard Yankee fans. And even they had come to the realization that, that the series was over, that they were not going to win. They really wanted just to win another one, maybe to take it back and have a shot in game 6. But, I was watching that 5th inning with them, and I was just like, oh, Jesus. I mean, if you did not watch the World Series at all, I implore you to go back and watch the 5th inning of game 5. That was a complete that was a how-to of not how to play baseball. Like, it was bad. I mean, it started with the Aaron Judge miss on the line drive. That bounced off. Then you had another play of trying to get a force out of third base. You had a miscommunication with Rizzo and Garrett Cole. Pitcher, the pitching coach or Aaron Boone not going out to calm down Garrett Cole after he had thrown 30-plus pitches at that point. It was just, I mean, again, it was a how-to of not playing baseball. It was bad. But it was incredible, though, because, again, anytime, and Scott, as we're coaches, we tell the kids, you can't give teams extra outs. And especially in a World Series, you simply cannot give a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers, who are loaded with talent, you can't give them extra outs. And that's what New York did. And it ultimately came back and bit them in the ass. And again, we saw it because, I mean, that's a team that was not going to give up. And, and they capitalized, and good on them. So it was nice to see Shohei, get his World Series. It was nice seeing Mookie obviously get another one. Freddie obviously getting another one as well. My boy Teoscar getting one finally. Again, it was just, it was a good World Series. I thought, the games were, they were intriguing. But yeah, it was nice to see the Yankees suffer defeat once again.
And you kind of started talking about it, but we'll move into it. It came out late in the series, but basically after things had kind of gotten wrapped up, but that the Dodgers were very confident going into this series because their scouting reports had shown a lot of what you mentioned happened to them in the game 5 when they started to melt down defensively. But there were rumblings that a report came out from the Post that said that the Dodgers told their players in scouting meetings that the Yankees were talent over fundamentals, and that if you run the bases with purpose and aggression, the Yankees will self-inflict harm, which was exposed in various forms by different players on the base paths. There was a very high value on putting the ball in play to make the Yankees execute. And they mentioned that the Yankees were just not the major's worst base running team by every metric, but the difference was vast in the field between them and the Padres, who the Dodgers beat in the National League Division Series, but were actually impressive in that area. I find it hilarious that the Yankees got blasted for not being very fundamentally sound and being stacked with a bunch of superstars, maybe ones that don't do the little things to, help your team win, or, the fundamentals are maybe a little lacking, which is basically the criticism of like the Yankees for me as an organization. I mean, obviously, during the 90s run and the early 2000s run, that was a fundamentally sound baseball team.
Yes.
Why they were such a machine. But part of the reason is since then, in the versions that the Yankees have put on the field and into the playoffs in the time, since that era kind of faded into obscurity, is the fact that they just went out and got hired guns, regardless of how they fit. Irregardless of the guys that they already had on the team, it was just about getting the guys that had the highest profile name or could hit the most home runs or, nab the most strikeouts. And there wasn't any real thought or detail put into actually putting the team together. And this was kind of the result, a sloppier team that, while it may have made the World Series because of the talent they had, they ultimately couldn't finish it because they couldn't do the little things to, carry them over the finish line. And
well, they didn't build a baseball team.
Right.
Then that's
I think that's very funny that the Dodgers knew that, exposed it, and then are more or less able to brag about it.
It's funny because the last part, sorry to cut you off, but it was
you're good.
Yeah, they were thrilled at how short Yankee leads were at first base to potentially be less of a threat on pivots at second base, where Gavin Lux does not excel. So there's advanced scouting right there. And they said their metrics had the Yankees as the worst positioned outfield. No shit, we saw that. They were amazed at how many times relay throws came skittering through the infield with no one taking charge, and how often Jazz Chisholm Jr., for example, was out of place or just standing still when the play was in action. I mean, that is damning right there.
I mean, that's the type of stuff that we teach our kids. As far
exactly.
as not watching, not standing around and watching the play as it happens, knowing where you're supposed to be, being in the right position, it happening at the major league level. And with Jazz, somebody that, we talked about when he was traded, a whole knock on him has been, a lot of it has been because of injury problems, but also because while he has a boatload of talent, there has been some, questioning of his, lack of leadership and just attention to detail and fundamentals. So seeing that play out and then being able to expose that, it's ultimately pretty damning. Like, I suggested that this is the type of stuff that if you're a Yankees fan or if you're somebody highly invested in, the ownership and whatnot, like seeing reports like this and seeing stuff like this come to fruition, wouldn't it make you question like who is in charge of putting together your team? And obviously Cashman was the architect of all those World Series titles back when. But what has he done in the time since, other than, put together these teams that have basically embarrassed the Yankees in a lot of ways because they failed to make the playoffs when, a ton of money was spent on them they were expected to. And then in this case, get there to the finish line and then get embarrassed because fundamentals, the biggest stage in the world for their sport, and they got out fundamentaled at the most basic level, fielding cutoffs and stuff like that. Like, that's, I don't know, man. It would be a hard pill for me to swallow as, the Steinbrenner family. I know that, they have a long relationship with Cashman and whatnot, but somebody would have to be answering for, this scouting report and the results of this World Series in light of that scouting report.
Yeah, I don't know really how you move on from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was, and like I said, this basically was, what was written in this, in the Post, the New York Post by Joel Sherman. Go back again and watch that fifth inning. That right there completely encompasses what that fifth inning was all about. The first batter, like I said, hits a line drive, and Aaron Judge comes in, and as soon as he's going to field it, he takes his eyes and looks away. And as soon as he looked away, ball hit his glove and rolls off. Now, or no, it wasn't the first batter. Just kidding, because I want to say it might have been Kike. I can't remember who it was, but I think Kike might have been on, and he beat it out at second base because Judge threw it to second to try and get him out at second base, in the force, but he didn't. And it was like the next batter hits a ground ball to Volpe, who was going to his right towards third base. He goes to field it and throw over to Jazz at third base for a force out. Didn't have a play, and it was a bad throw because it was just an odd play. Bases loaded, and then again, and that's one thing that, if I'm Garrett Cole, he should have been out of the inning anyway. And like him or not, Garrett Cole is one of the premier pitchers in baseball. Again, like him or not, it is what it is. Like him, the team he's on, again, is what it is. And I will give him credit because my biggest thing, and like I said, I was watching it with my neighbors who are Yankees fans. And as that was going on, I immediately looked to my neighbor and I was like, hey, if they're smart, they need to go out there and they need to calm Garrett Cole down. Now, he wasn't like fired up or anything like that, but it was, again, you should have had 2 outs, maybe 3 at this point in time, been out of the inning, but you didn't. Now you're down. He ended up coming back with 2 huge strikeouts, and I would say one was Ohtani. So that at this point, there was bases loaded, 2 outs, and you're putting extra pressure on the pitcher, and you're lowering that tank more and more with high pressure situations like that, and that's where I felt Aaron Boone did a disservice to Garrett Cole by not going out there and calming him down, just saying, hey, take a deep breath. And, like I said, then he goes out there and strikes out the next 2 batters, but then a ground ball by Mookie Betts to first base, and Mookie's hauling ass down first base. Garrett Cole doesn't even remotely go to cover first base. So Rizzo, thinking that Garrett Cole's going to be there, he fields it and realizes there's nobody. And it's just Mookie, bases loaded, another run scores, and then it just continued to snowball. Exactly what the fundamentals of, from the Yankees just were not there. Again, Brian Cashman did not build a baseball team. This 2024 Yankees ball club was not a baseball team. It was a team loaded with talent, and that was it. But when it came to playing a game of baseball, like you said, Scott, you said it perfect. They got out fundamental, and it cost them a World Series. And it's cost them many chances previously because they don't play the game of baseball. And, when you've got an advanced scouting report like what the Dodgers had, again, like I said, that is very damning to the Yankees organization for what the Dodgers said. And I think it's hilarious because, they literally called it all out. And again, if you're not taking big leads, knowing that Gavin Lux struggles at the pivot at second base on that, challenge that. Make him do it. And they didn't do any of that. And again, it bit him in the ass, and it's hilarious because, Yankees fans just have this, they carry themselves very just, uppity and everything like that, like they're the greatest. But again, they haven't proven it lately. Like you said, Scott, those early, like the 90s Yankees teams were machines because they were damn good baseball players who were fundamental as hell. And that's what got them that far. Again, if you're going to be a baseball team that doesn't have the fundamentals, you're not going to win championships. It's not going to happen because there's going to be teams that are going to be fundamentally more sound, and they're going to beat you 99% of the time. And that's exactly what happened here, especially when the Dodgers have that talent on top of it as well.
Yeah, and Joe Kelly, the Dodgers. Dodgers. Did you see this?
He's such an ass, but I love him.
He has a podcast called Baseball Isn't Boring, and he went even further, saying that if there was a re-ranking of the playoff teams, that the Yankees might have been 8th or the 9th team that they faced, best team that they faced. He said, you're putting the Padres ahead of them, you're putting the Phillies ahead of them, the Mets, the Braves, even if they got unlucky having to play the doubleheader. The Guardians played like crap, but the Guardians played better defense and better baseball all around. He also went on to say that, they basically, he didn't name any names, but he said that they're lazy, that they, as an organization, the Dodgers don't have lazy superstars. He says, we go through numerous scouting reports, pay attention to every single detail. We have a lot of big superstars in our clubhouse, but our superstars also care and aren't lazy and play hard. So that's the difference and the biggest separator. Like a lot of people, I didn't see it, so I don't have a real clear point of reference, I've seen the shots and the still images of Judge misplaying the ball and hearing you describe it and whatnot. And so I got to believe that, I don't think that he's necessarily taking direct shot at Judge per se. And there's plenty of optional, there's plenty of people in that clubhouse that you could point to him, and Chisholm being one that, we already mentioned, has that lazy or that tag on him, whether it's right or wrong, that he's less fundamentally sound than a lot of guys. So that's hilarious to me, is all I'll say, is that, again, a contemporary, a peer in the sport is sitting there and saying, like, it's rare that you get teams admitting that they're just like, oh yeah, we went in this series and we're supremely confident just because we looked at the scouting report, looked at the video, and saw that, like, these guys, don't do what they're supposed to do. And I guess it's kind of damning on the rest of the American League too, or at least those teams that they played, because if those teams couldn't exploit it to eliminate the Yankees, that means that they had just enough talent. But those other teams must not have had nearly enough talent to overcome the fact that the Yankees didn't need to play fundamentally sound baseball to get to the World Series. So, like I said, it's a lot damning on the road that the Yankees had to take to get there.
Yeah. And I'd say one thing, you're talking about Jazz. As this series went on, I think Jazz Chisholm is an absolute tool bag. I liked him, at least I thought I did. Man, I'm like, this dude is an absolute douche. I can't. So to me, I was like, I was glad he lost, that they lost because of him too, because I couldn't stomach him. And then I'm like, then you get all that, coming out again in that report, the scouting report, and that cracks me up, because I'm like, dude, for as great as you think you are, you're not that great, because again, the Dodgers, they straight called you out, and, they exploited it. It cracked me up. But again, I think, and looking back on it, I think the Padres could have won this series. I think the Mets could have, the Phillies. There's a lot of teams in the National League that I think would have come out on top, in a series against the Yankees. Based off of what I saw, I'd have to think that other teams would have exploited the same things that the Dodgers did. I'd have to think they would have. But I could be wrong in that. But still, like I said, when it comes down to it, there's at least three other ones that would have.
I think you're onto something. I definitely think that the Phillies had that, they made it there. And the Mets, the way that they were playing at the end, I don't necessarily think they're all that much more talented or whatever, but just the way they were playing at the end. But I probably put the Brewers in that category. I'm not saying that the Brewers would have necessarily won the series, but I think the Brewers would have made it a lot more competitive than people would think. Just,
why is that?
Because the Brewers are very fundamentally sound. I guarantee you they would have pushed that to 6 or 7 games.
Every bit, yes.
If they weren't able to finish it off, would have given the Yankees everything that they could handle.
Bingo.
But, it is what it is as far as, the ultimate verdict, the final saying on who the Yankees are and what their team ended up being, because they're the ones who have to go back to the drawing board and kind of fix it. We're not going to get too deep into the weeds on this episode about the offseason goings on, but Juan Soto, a big part of them getting to the World Series and having the run that they did have. We talked briefly about his status as now a free agent, going into the early part of the offseason. Did get slapped with the qualifying offer. But the Yankees are going to need him and quite a bit more, obviously, to finish the job. Seeing as how Aaron Judge was MIA through the entire month of October. I don't think that anybody should question Aaron Judge's ability to play baseball at the highest level, and he is the reason that the Yankees were there. But when you don't show up as one of the biggest superstars in the game in October, it doesn't go unnoticed. So he will have to try to fix that the next appearance that he has in the playoffs. Because if I'm not mistaken, this is a theme with him now in the playoffs where he hasn't exactly succeeded. Not that entirely shocking, and you have such small sample size in the playoffs, and a guy like Aaron Judge, who is the focus of every single every single pitcher that gets on the mound, he gets their best every single pitch and all that focus and everything. So, I remember how much Barry Bonds used to struggle in the playoffs and how bad his numbers were for the first 2/3 of his playoff appearances until the end of his career when he finally started to have some success. But if you lose a Juan Soto, if you're New York, I don't see how you can find yourself, outside of replacing Juan Soto with another big bat that we're not thinking of via trade at this point, because free agency wise, he's easily the biggest prize of the offseason. The Yankees are in quite a big heap of trouble if they don't re-sign Juan Soto.
I know. I don't know what they would do.
And who would have thought that like a year ago at this time, Soto hadn't been traded. He was still part of San Diego. And then about a month or so into the offseason became a Yankee. But who knew that he would succeed and flourish to the point that he was basically a perfect fit if you're, from the Yankees perspective, and a really gigantic reason why you were able to overcome the shortcomings that had befallen them the past couple of years and been the reason why they couldn't even make the playoffs, because it was like when Aaron Judge went cold, they had no offense. Well, when Aaron Judge went cold this season, they had Juan Soto to fall back on. So I don't know where the final number ends up for Juan Soto, but the Yankees have got to make sure that they're in the mix. Otherwise, it's going to be a very long winter trying to figure out how you're going to replace him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you do. I mean, I was just kind of going through and I saw, this John Becker from Fangraphs or whatever. He said he goes, my first free agent predictions, and he's got Soto going to the Mets. I mean, but the funny thing is then he's got a Pete Alonso going over to the Yankees, and I don't see that happening.
But even if he does, like, does that make sense? Is that what you need, or is that more of what we were just kind of talking about with the Yankees, where it's like, oh, it's a really big name, so let's add him? Because I mean, like, I like Pete Alonso, but he's a low batting average guy. He's fine over at first, but he's a first baseman, so it's not like you're getting super high defensive value out of him. Like, it seems just like it's a name again. Yeah, it's a name and it's a half-ass replacement for a Juan Soto. I don't know. If you're a Yankees fan, like, how excited does that get you to replace Soto with Pete Alonso? Like, I don't know. It wouldn't jack me up. It would feel like it was partial replacement.
Yeah, it's a half-assed attempt right there. Now, Pete Alonso is a better fit in Cincinnati, where, a right-handed power bat is way better in Cincinnati than it would be in New York. For what they need, again, the fundamental part. And Pete Alonso, again, is, he'll provide a little more than what Rizzo did, but I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't. Again, they've got to build this team up with, you've got guys like, Verdugo. What's going to happen with Verdugo? Is he going to be gone? Is he going to come back? You've got Jason Dominguez, literally, who seemingly been their top prospect for the last 60 years, is literally, sitting there waiting to, be a part of this team. You throw him in the outfield, and there you go. And, that's, to me, a suitable replacement for Verdugo. But, again, the Yankees, they had so many more problems than I think than what people are really thinking, because it's the Yankees mentality. Oh, we'll just throw money at it. Well, you threw money at it before, and look what happened.
Right.
You took advantage of a weaker National or American League this year compared to what we've seen in the past, because, it was nice having stories like, Kansas City and Detroit, but they were never going to be World Series contenders.
Well, and honestly, the Orioles just they ran out of gas at the wrong time. And
Yeah.
same thing with Houston made they came all the way back to finish the season strong and everything, but they kind of ran out of gas at the end. And so the Yankees just had a very easy pathway to the World Series because the other teams that may have given them issue or have given them issue in the past got eliminated. And so the Yankees just never had to see them.
Yeah, that's true. And that's another thing too is, with Baltimore, I heard this on the radio today, but this is the first offseason with the new ownership group. The new owner from Baltimore. Are they going to spend, they're going to spend the money? I know they extended the qualifying offer to Corbin Burns, which was, a no-brainer for them. But are they going to go out there and they're going to dump the money into it, because this is one of those situations to where, you've got a window now with this team and you got to take advantage of it. And here's Baltimore's chance to do that. And you've got a guy like Anthony Santander who is, going to hit the market. Are you able to bring him back? What are you able to do with that? Are you able to get a suitable replacement along with other pieces to help, the young studs that you've got on this team? This is a very interesting offseason, which, again, here in the next couple shows, we'll obviously be delving into it a lot more. But, just on the 30,000 foot view of it all, there's some big off seasons here for the teams in the American League East, mainly Toronto, Baltimore, and the Yankees. I think those are the three that are, that have a microscope placed on them because they've got a lot of work to do. But if you're looking at Baltimore, I don't think it's as much as we would think. It's really just, bringing in a piece or two to really help propel this team moving forward into 2025. But yeah, it's, but if going back to the Yankees, man, they've got a lot of thinking to do. And it would be interesting to be, a fly on the wall, in the Bronx, at Yankee Stadium to see what, what's being discussed. Because again, this is not, it's not the Yankees teams that we remember in the past, being as good as they were. This is, we're in a whole new world now, and it's just, it's not working out. And they've got, like I said, they've got a lot they've got to figure out.
Well, at least if you're the Dodgers, you're like, this couldn't have gone any better, right? Like you signed the best player in the world you're paying him $2 million a year and deferring all the money for forever. He's making all that money. None of that kicks in forever. And in the very first year of this partnership, they go out and win the World Series. He's coming back next year. He's going to pitch, presumably. I probably do it well like he has. And I gotta say, I don't see how, as of right this second and heading into the off season and the early part of next year, the Dodgers are the clear favorite at the moment.
Good. Yeah, hands down going into it.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Dodgers right now are the team to beat. It's not even close. Even if the Dodgers don't make a single off-season move, I would say that right now that they're the favorites.
As it stands right now, but damn well they're going to go out.
Right.
And there's two names that I'm really intrigued by.
I really hope they don't get Willy Adames.
Adames was one of them. And the
I
other
really
one,
hope they don't get Willy Adames. That would be awful.
That one and Bo Bichette are the two names that I'm really intrigued by going to to LA. I think that would be, you add either one of those two to that team. My God, man, like it just.
Let's not. Like,
you got to have your backup, man. You got to have your backup.
No. I mean, they've got Shohei, they've got Mookie, they've got Freddie. I think they've got enough. Like, let's hope for some of those names to go elsewhere, just not to any of the New York teams or Philadelphia.
Oh, another one I wanted to mention. I forgot to mention Walker Buehler. Got to give him mad props.
Oh yeah, just in general, his World Series and the way
he came in and closed it out in Game 5, and I remember when I told you, I was like, happy for him, and you're like, I don't. I'm like, well, it was your general hatred still. It was kind of kicking in, which I get. It's okay, But again, for a guy who is coming off of 2 Tommy John surgeries, just, a player with the utmost talent, for him to come in there and, in game 5 of the World Series, and just a high pressure, situation again to close it out. And he was flat out dealing and got it done. So happy for him again. It sucks seeing these premier athletes injured. And, when we saw, for example, like the Bengals, like yesterday, Eric All suffering his second torn ACL. Like, you hate seeing that, as a massive injury like that to happen again to an elite player. And like I said, for Walker Buehler coming off of 2 Tommy Johns, man, I felt for him, but it was so great seeing him, come away with, with the save in the World Series. Just awesome. Just so happy for him. It was great to see. He was, like I said, he was dealing, that adrenaline had kicked in, and he was throwing in 180 miles an hour. Very little control to start off, which obviously is to be expected when you've got that adrenaline dump like that. But man, it was great to see. I'm happy for him. It's going to be interesting to see what his future holds now. Does he sign a 1-year prove-it deal with the Dodgers, to come back again and see if he's able to, to come back and prove himself healthy and roll on from there, and then go get that, that contract in 2026. But again, just happy for him. I did want to give him that shout out because I forgot to mention it earlier. But yeah, Walker Buehler, super happy for you. It was great to see, and much deserved. And yeah, keep fighting, man. It was awesome.
I got nothing against Walker Buehler. I was happy for him based on what you said. I know he's struggled to come back, and 2 Tommy John surgeries. I'm always going to root for a guy doing that, trying to continue your career, especially for somebody like him who was, at the highest level at one point, winning the Cy Young and just dominating in the early part of his career. I know that the year that the Braves won the World Series was the end of kind of that little bit of a run that he had where he was just completely dominating. And it was a big deal to score runs off of him in the deciding game of the series with the Dodgers on the way to that World Series victory. So I know how good Walker Buehler can be and had been. So it was nice to see him kind of finally find a little bit of who he was at the very end there in the World Series. A very fitting time. If you're going to find your former self and be out there dealing, let it be against the Yankees in the World Series. I couldn't have picked a better time myself.
I know. It was great seeing you had 2 guys just shoving it right to the Yankees.
Yeah, man, that's gonna kind of put a bow on everything for the season. The World Series. That's it. It's a wrap. We turned the page on everything. I was just getting notified that the Braves are already dealing with injuries for next season. So getting a head start on 2025. Joe Jimenez out for the year next year. Knee surgery. It's good times, man. So can't escape the injury bug in 2024. I just want it to be next year already. I think the Braves sustain less injuries in 2024 just by virtue of they can't statistically suffer anymore. I don't think.
Oh my God, no shit. It's
like it could.
The best part is though, it's hot stove season now. Like this is like we've got.
This is the second best part of the season after the beginning, in my opinion. Because I mean, the playoffs are fun and everything, but once your team is out, then it becomes just But the hot stove season, where every time you wake up or turn on the TV or radio or anything that something else could have happened. I love it, man. I love watching all the movement, and I hope that it's more exciting than the last couple have been, just from a standpoint of some names moving around a little bit faster. It's been slow to get going the last few years, so I hope that we're not tracking a plane from Shohei come the end of December, and then things can get moving just a little bit quicker.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. But the good thing is leading up to the, the winter meetings, here in 4, 5, 6 weeks, probably. It's the first or second week of December, I think is exactly how it's going to play out. So maybe we could try and get John Maurer on, or see if we can get him back on the old show. Jonathan Maurer,
Let's
little
do
agent
it,
headed into before he heads to the winter meetings if he goes. Like I think he's going this year. Maybe we can see if we can talk him into a backwards K trip to the winter meetings.
Yeah, he can drive. I'll ride.
I'll fly. We can fly. I don't give a shit. We'll do it. We can hitchhike. I don't care. I don't even know, where are the winter meetings. Are they in Nashville again this year? I don't even know.
I think they are, but I could be wrong about that. I think that they kept them in Nashville. I know the internet. It's that crazy thing that we have that can find information out like that in just a matter of seconds.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we're going to do here, because we're going to find this out, because I'm not going to end this show without knowing. Let's see. Baseball winter meetings. Here we go. Oh, shit. They're in Dallas. Okay.
So no road trip. That ends that.
No, we can make a road trip. It's just going to be a long-ass road trip.
Wow. Yes.
December 8th through the 12th in Dallas, which, if that's anything, I know they've got a really good area on that, in that whole Dallas metroplex area. So, we'll see if we can get some guests on for the show to see if we can get rolling with that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have all sorts of random crap, and I guess, we'll just pop in during the off season. There's not going to be any schedule, no cadence to it. It'll just be, hey, big news, big happenings. We'll definitely have a show after the winter meetings, or maybe even heading into it, depending on how things go. But lots of baseball news to come at you over the next 6 months, and we'll be here to digest some of it as we head into 2025. Get ready to start a new season where hopefully it's not the Dodgers and the Yankees. Could we maybe just, that's my one wish. Like, I'm not greedy. It doesn't have to be the Braves, but just don't be the Dodgers. Don't be the Yankees. Don't be the Mets. That's gonna do it for Chris and I. This has been another episode of Backwards K Baseball. You guys can find us everywhere you find your fine podcast. We're on Facebook, Twitter, the Impact Sports Cincinnati Network, and right here on the Craft Brewed Sports Podcasting Network. We appreciate you guys' support in this, our first season of Backwards K Baseball. Like I said, we'll be around all off season. Make sure to check us out when we go live. We'll send out notifications to let you know when we're doing those shows. We appreciate you guys being with us. Cheers, everyone. It's been fun. Love baseball.